Hello again. Today I'm gonna be doing Lahmacun. It's a street food in Turkey. It's desirable and fetched for by many others. I practiced few recipes and I found this one to be the best. I created some of my own additions to it. Let's try it and see. What we start with is a dough. You can also use pizza dough both from the market or even tortilla, which is very thin because the dough needs to be really thin for this recipe. I will be showing you how to make 2 cups of flour just for you to learn what you can do. So I have 2 cups of bread flour here. I'm gonna add half a teaspoon of yeast. You don't need too much yeast because we don't want it to fluff too much. I'm gonna add also a teaspoon of salt. I'm not gonna put the salt directly on the yeast, it kills it. So we'll put the salt on the side. I'll mix a little bit with my hand. And for these 2 cups, I will use about 3/4 to 1 cup of water. We start with 3/4. I like my dough to be a little bit on the wetter side so I can stretch it even thinner. So that's what I'm gonna try to do. So I have here 3/4 of a cup plus tablespoon or so. I'll see how much it's gonna take. I will put all of them actually and just mix. You don't need to knead much, just mix, make the flour get wet. Just for you to see, I'm just getting it wet at this moment. Okay, and I believe that I will need a little extra, so I put here 3/4 of a cup of water. I'm gonna add about 2 tablespoons maybe. I'll tell you exactly how it ends up being. Now the dough have come together. It's still not kneaded well, but it took all the flour in the bowl, and we will let it rest for 10-15 minutes, and then I will knead it again. That will make the water get absorbed much better, and it will knead much faster and easier for us. Meanwhile, I will introduce the ingredients for the meat that is gonna top this dough when it's done. Let's talk about ingredients for the meat paste. I have here 200 grams of ground beef. In Turkey they use also lamb. You can choose lamb or beef, but I am using beef. And I have half of a link, which is about 110 grams of chorizo sausage, and 1 onion. I'm gonna put in half of it. I have a tablespoon of yogurt. I have a teaspoon of tomato paste, half a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 of a teaspoon, 1/8 of a teaspoon actually, smoked paprika, 1/8 of a teaspoon black pepper, 1/8 of a teaspoon cumin, and then choice of yours if you want to put some spice into it, some heat. I will put half of this. You can put jalapeno too. And I'll put just a little bunch of fresh parsley, and this happens to be from my garden. We will blend those in a food processor to make it into a paste kind of. And we will add tiny bit of water if needed, because this type of paste needs to be thinly spread on the bread. So when the paste is thin, it spreads much more even and it cooks much better since it's put on the bread as raw, and then we will bake it. So let's get started. I'll peel the onion. Tiny bit of water. Here's how it looks. Really runny paste, very easy to spread. I will taste how it tastes so I can make sure that I have a perfect tasting lahmacun. I'll put a little bit in a plate here and I'll microwave this tiny bit just to taste the spices if it's all good. I'll taste it. Very good, nice, spicy. It has a kick, delicious. Let's check on the dough. It has been 10 minutes since we kneaded the dough, put it together. We didn't knead it yet, but it has rested. And I have it here. I'm gonna put it on this counter here. I dust a little flour because my dough is a little bit wet, which I'd rather it to be since I want to open it really thin. I ended up putting 3/4 of a cup plus 2 tablespoons into 2 cups of bread flour. So now I just will pull and push, pull and push, pull and push. Doesn't need much kneading until you find yourself with a dough that is very smooth and well blended with silky surface. When you get to that point, which is very quick, especially when you're kneading only 2 cups of flour, it's really easy. Let it sit again. See, let me show you how. Just bring it to you and push it away. Bring it and push it. Bring it and push it. And you'll end up with a surface that is really smooth and nice. Like that. Now let it sit just for 5 minutes and then we'll cut it to small balls. I'll make it into about 7 or 8 balls, and that will mean 7 or 8 lahmacuns. The meat I parked in the fridge until we're ready to use it. Let me separate the dough to 8 pieces. So I cut it in half and then into quarters, and then each quarter to half. And I take each piece and I try to shape it into a ball. doing this with the thumb and the pinky. We roll that ball between the fingers real fast. Nice little ball. I put it on a silpat on a wooden board so the dough stays warm. Normally stone counters, they tend to be cold and they don't let the dough feel comfortable, I guess. Especially if you want it to rise. In this case, we don't want the dough to rise too much because that's not the intention. When you're done rolling the dough balls, I wet a clean kitchen towel and I just cover it and let it rest for about 15-20 minutes and then we'll get going. The dough has rested. Now we're gonna start our adventure. I put some flour on my board. I take one of those balls that have rested, put it down, and I just press with my fingers. I can also flour my fingers on the board. I just press and flip and press. And then if you wish, you can also use, at this point, a rolling pin. And make sure that it doesn't stick. Make it very fast rolling. And you can also flour your rolling pin. And open the dough as thin as you possibly could. And when you're done doing that with a rolling pin, you can just go around like this, stretching from the edge, letting the dough hang, and it will naturally stretch on its own. Try to open, stretch. You can be creative at this point, but make sure it's extremely thin. Now, meanwhile, I'm gonna put the stove on a large frying pan like this. You can also make it in a very hot oven on a pizza stone, but I want to show alternative way to do it that is fast and easy for those who do not feel like putting their oven on, or they don't have a pizza stone, or they'd rather use this method. So this is now really thin. See how thin it is. Very thin. Okay, at this point I will put it on the hot pan. And I will spread very thin layer of the meat that we have prepared previously. And if the meat firmed a little bit because it was in the fridge, you can always sprinkle it with a touch of water to make it thin enough to spread, very thinly. I will show you, even though it's on the stove, I'll bring it to you. But it starts graying up, even though it's only, the heat is only from the bottom. This thin, very thin. So as soon as this pita gets golden from the bottom, I am preparing my toaster oven, and I'll pop it into the toaster oven to crisp it from the top. This is supposed to be very crispy when you eat it. And you top it also with sweet red onion that is sliced very thinly, and drizzled with a little bit olive oil and sumac. And you also top it with a little bit of parsley, fresh parsley leaves. You roll it. I'll show you how it's eaten. I'm putting it in the toaster oven. Let me show you how it looks. It's very crisp. And now what we do is we just sprinkle a little bit of lemon juice. I will put also some of this onions with sumac and olive oil, like this, and some parsley leaves, fresh parsley leaves, and I wrap it and listen how crispy it is. Delicious. You must try it. It's absolutely awesome. Full of flavor, robust. Enjoy.